Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well and you're enjoying, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, your summer, and in the Southern Hemisphere, your winter. Hope everything's going fine for all of you. Today, I've got a fairly short quote that can possibly be deceiving in its shortness from somebody named Tiimber Hawkeye. Now, that's a name he acquired when essentially well, first of all, let me go back. He was somebody in the corporate world, and then he basically said, this is all just way too much, and pretty much quit his job, moved, and became, shall we say, he uses the word, or the word around him is religionless, but he's really, in a sense, got all sorts of religious artifacts, but he's not a religionless in the sense that he's not doesn't identify with one specific religion, other than somewhat more Zen or Buddhist. And I think you'll be able to get a sense of that after I give you the quote. So, with that introduction, just to at least let you know where the quote's coming from this week, you can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass. Now, I think all of us, if at some point in time, have gotten bent out of shape, if you will, and upset because things aren't going well. We always have things in life in which it seems like everything's coming apart at the seams and we fall apart. Sometimes you'll do that because something's not going right with your children, or something with your partner, or something at work. And we get all, I don't want to exactly say anxious, but anxiety goes into that. But you've got a lot, your insides essentially get churned up because you're trying to figure out what's going to go on. You become, in a sense, chaotic, right? Does that make sense? In a sense, what the quotes here, at least the way I'm interpreting it today, and yesterday and the day before, but the way I interpreted this quote is the fact that most of what's going on actually is going to be short lived. It may not seem that way, and you may be actually living in a situation in which you think that it's going to be this way forever, but it usually isn't. Usually, our lives go in what's become of a sine wave. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and there are good days and there are bad days. Everything tends to work its way out in the long run, because if you really take the average, I don't want to get too mathematical here, but if you get up and down, up and down, up and down, ultimately what you're doing is going across a middle line in which things are averaging out to, for all practical purposes, zero. Does that make sense? So the idea here is that if you just begin to recognize that all of this chaos, all of this trouble is going to essentially pass, and you basically can't do anything about it, things will work out a little better. The other part to it is the only thing you can control, and I've said this before, the only thing you can control is you and your thinking. But I can't control yes, you can control if you get upset. Because there are times in which things happen that you can have a second thought. You can have an outburst, but then you've got a second of saying, do you want to continue going on with that outburst? It is possible to stop yourself in midstream, so to speak, and maintain a more calm demeanor and calm yourself down. Because again, once you're calmer and you recognize that there's nothing you can do to change the surroundings around you, you will turn out feeling a little bit better. Because again, how much of that chaos around you can you actually change? Because even if you are the originator of the chaos to some degree, because maybe you've started something, you made a comment like, I'm not going to cook dinner or something. That's a real simplistic answer, or comment, but let's just go with that. And then everybody gets bent out of shape because if you don't cook dinner, who's going to? You basically make a statement. The chaos then becomes them, and it's their reaction. Now, granted, yeah, but what are you going to do? It might have something to do with how you're going to say that. Like, I'm not going to cook dinner, but how about we look at another alternative or something, instead of just basically, blowing off and saying, I'm not going to cook dinner and storming out of the house. You see where I'm coming from with this? So that you've got a variety of ways of making these statements. If you think that they're going to generate some disturbance, if you will, in your environment, how are you going to say it? Because there's multiple ways you could say it. And if somebody else is the one who's going to do something, so maybe somebody else is the one who cooks dinner or takes out the garbage or does a job, and they're not going to do it, doesn't necessarily mean you have to blow up. Because all of that does is really make your body, the chemical levels and everything else like that, you get anxious, it doesn't work on your heart, your stress level goes up, your cortisol and all of that sort of goes up, and things just are not good for you in the long run. Again, the only thing you can control is you. That's it. Done deal. You can't control anybody else. If any of you have got any small children, you know that you can't even control a baby, because the baby's going to do whatever the baby's going to do. You can control some of the behaviors to some degree, but you can't control what the baby's going to do. You can't control, for example, the baby's going to grow up. A lot of parents would say, gee, I wish I could keep my children small. That's not going to happen. And you know that. It's going to get there. So if you think in terms that you're the only one that you can control, and if you can begin to learn to control yourself and stay calm, you don't get that anxiety, you don't get that stress, and you may actually be able to look at the situation with a different set of eyes and find some clarity in there of something that you can do if that is warranted. In some cases, maybe there's nothing that you can do, and that's perfectly fine, because there's nothing you can do or should do, because maybe it's going to be somebody else. So let's say your children are having, or somebody you know, a coworker, somebody is having a meltdown. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be involved in that meltdown, because that other person might have to just calm down to the point of letting it all out until they get to that point of being able to take calmness. If you're calm, the other person will probably get calmer sooner. If you get anxious, you're just creating another anxious situation, and everything's just going to get out of control. Again, so the storm will pass. Whatever is going to happen, what's ever going to mess you up, what's ever going to cause you disturbances and discomfort and anxiety and stress, sooner or later, that's going to stop. So, if you can begin to recognize the fact that that's going to stop and maintain more of an equilibrium, you'll probably be happier over the course of time. Now, you may not recognize it in yourself, but I'd be willing to bet that you know a few people that you probably could say that, oh, I know so-and-so because they do that all the time. They should just calm themselves down. I wonder how many people look at you with the same thought. Does that make sense? They may see you as being overwrought more often than you need to be. So you might want to have a conversation with people if you or think about it, or at least give some thought about it. Anyway, I hope this little short conversation was helpful today. Maybe you want to pass it on to somebody that does get distraught, and give it some thought. And if you have a thought to say or want to disagree with me or some such thing like that, go ahead and just, drop me a comment and let me know what you're thinking about it. So please be sure to share this with somebody if you think that they can use it, and we will chat with you later.